Hello.
Hello. Uh, Hi. Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to our What's Your Dream Job webinar. I'm Steph. This is Saski. She's going to introduce herself in a minute. I'm the programs manager of the Employability and Upskilling Scheme at Blossom LGBT and the Arts and Heritage Project. I use the he, him pronouns. Tonight, Saski will walk us through some techniques and questions to ask ourselves to figure out what we are really passionate about doing for a job. And once we figure that out, how to set ourselves on a path to doing what we love and navigate any challenges and barriers that may stand in our way. I'm gonna leave for now. I'd just like to remind you that we always welcome and really appreciate your questions, comments, and feedback. So this little QR code at the bottom of the screen is you scan it, it takes you to a form, you fill it out with any of the questions, comments, and feedback. You can leave your name, you can be anonymous. It's all up to you. So Saski, up over to you now. I'm
Hey,
going to
thank
be off
you.
screen.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. So just a quick little note about myself, really. My name is Saski. My pronouns are she, her. I am an LGBTQIA plus inclusion specialist, and really with that, what I tend to do is really focus on, how I can positively spotlight the LGBTQIA plus community. I am part of the community. I am an out and proud lesbian, or a fabulous lesbian, as I like to say. And I really, I can do this in many ways. I often kind of go into schools or go into workplace, and I promote a program and teach a program that I've written myself called Everyday Pride. And that's really about creating LGBTQI plus inclusion and allyship, again, in schools and the workplace. And it's really about, promoting those safe, inclusive spaces. I am also a Pride host and an interviewer. I've got a podcast that I promote as well. I am a mum. And yeah, I just really try and kind of do things that make me happy in terms of my work. It hasn't always been easy, but it is something that I strive to do, and I think it's really important to do where we can. So hopefully this session will give you some tips and tools on how we can do that. And if anything, just give you a bit more insight and confidence about being your true, authentic and fabulous self. So very quickly, I just want to say that this is a safe space. It is an opportunity for LGBTQIA plus people to ask questions and allies as well. But it's a safe space. So please do use the chat box as well if you've got any questions. And if there's anything that I can't answer myself today, by all means, I'll take the details, or we'll take the details for Blossom and come back to you with that. So just thinking a little bit more about, what we will be taking away today from this session. There is a lot to get through in a short space of time, so I will do my best. But really, what I want you to kind of come away with is really having more confidence, confidence about, maybe what career route you might be wanting to take, or even knowing how to take those actions towards doing it. But most importantly, having confidence in yourself. I'm going to talk a bit about the importance of being our true, authentic self. And I think when we can do that, that really does help build our confidence and empowers us to be the best version of ourselves. So that's my main key takeaway, really. Alongside all that, I want us to think about, career plans and kind of how we can try and, set achievable goals and what that kind of looks like. Handling challenges, whether that's in the workplace, on your career journey, or even in everyday life, and how we can think about that self-care. Also tips to improve your job search and showing off your strengths and values. But again, ultimately building that confidence, resilience, and overcoming challenges that can support you to be your true, authentic self. So I always think it's really important that we think about role models and people who inspire us. And I don't know about you, but for myself, I would say that RuPaul is someone amongst many people, but someone I would hold highly up there when it comes to inspiration. So a quick quote from Ru here, when Ru said, when you become the image of your own imagination, it's the most powerful thing you could ever do. And I think that's really key when we think about, being our true authentic self and what that actually means and what that really looks like. So for me, I think it's important that we all try and find our inner Roo. And again, what does that actually look like? Well, it comes alongside being your true authentic self. So you may have heard that phrase, people saying it, being your true authentic self. What does it actually mean? Why is it important? What does it look like? So to me, I kind of describe being your true authentic self as being, able to be yourself and not hiding any parts of your identity, whether that's around your sexuality, your gender identity, around your religion, your culture, your class, in any kind of environment, not having to feel that you're having to hide parts of those identities. Because you may experience prejudice or discrimination. So whether that's in the workplace, in school, college, university, with friends, family, with your partner, different versions of yourself, and worrying about how people may, react to that. Now, of course, we are different in different environments. We're all different to how we may be in the work environment or in school or university or college versus how we may be socially when we're out with our friends or with partners. Of course, we've got different slight versions of ourselves. But the whole point of being your true authentic self, in my opinion, is being able to not have that worry and not having to worry about, if you will experience prejudice or discrimination, if you're open and out about your sexual orientation and or your gender identity, because I don't believe that that's fair. And that is really part of my mission to change that and tackle that. And doing that through the work I do, step by step where I can. I want people to be able to be their true authentic self, in everyday life, whether you're part of the LGBTQI plus community or not. Because the reality is when we can be the best version of ourselves, then we can shine. And that's so important in our everyday lives, isn't it? It's important that we can be happy. So what does being your true authentic self kind of look like when we are thinking about being at work? We are going to talk about, career pathways, how to kind of work towards that. But before we kind of get to that, when we're in our workplace, we tend to spend quite a lot of time there. So we want to make sure that it's actually a nice, safe environment and a nice place to work. So things that I want you to think about with that is what type of work environment do you want to be in? Because being your true authentic self in a place where you spend quite a lot of time is going to be really important to being the best version of yourself. So when you're thinking about not only the job or the career that you want to take and the road journey that you're looking to do with that, it's also, important to think about what type of workplace environment, what type of company you want to work in, and what that looks like. So quick tips on ways that you can do that is maybe researching certain companies that you are interested in working in. What do they look like? Do they have workplace inclusion policies that you can look at and view? Some companies don't, but most, particularly around diversity, equity and inclusion, do have them available for people to look at and see, how inclusive they actually are, because often those companies that do want to show it, they want to promote it as well. So policies like that should typically be available in most companies. Also, check out their social media posts. What do their posts look like? What are they celebrating? What are they campaigning for? How kind of positive, inclusive are those posts? What does that look like? That's quite telling about a company and an organisation as well. Also, are they celebrating or promoting diversity days such as Pride Month, Black History Month, Neurodiversity Week, International Women's Day? And also a real key part and an important part of workplace inclusion is checking as to whether or not an organisation has employment resource groups. Now, of course, depending on the size of the company, it might be a really small company and it might not be the case that they have got an employment resource group, and purely because there might not be enough people. However, bigger companies tend to have employment resource groups, and I'll talk a bit about them in a minute. But employment resource groups are basically groups where people can go, and meet other people who may be, for example, part of the LGBTQIA plus community, or there might be neurodiverse employment resource groups or women's groups, or different types of groups where people can again have that safe space, to celebrate themselves, be their true authentic selves, and also just to have that kind of networking event for other people and like-minded people, including allies that support those communities as well. So another quick thing you can do as well, if you really want to kind of do your research on an organisation, is you can go onto a platform called Glassdoor. I will have the resource for you to share as well at the end of the sessions. But Glassdoor is also a platform that you can go on, you can research certain companies, you can type in staff reviews, and you can get a bit of an idea about, get a sense of, is it an inclusive place? Is it a nice place to work? Because typically people will leave reviews about, how their experience was whilst working there, good and bad. So that's another quick tip on how you can do it as well. Now, just a quick bit about employment resource groups. And employment resource groups are basically, as I say, groups that offer that opportunity for kind of belonging. And the important thing of those groups is that, they are inclusive and they create safe spaces. So again, they typically allow people to feel more comfortable and confident, so that, yes, they can celebrate parts of their identity and they can feel included and respected for it. But actually also an important thing is that they feel comfortable and confident to focus on their professional development as well. So with that professional development, when you're feeling more comfortable, you're more likely to maybe go for a promotion, to feel like actually you're valued in that workplace environment as well. So they're a really good, important part of, what makes an inclusive company as well. Also, they are often allow people to you find that people with, or organizations, should I say, that have, employment resource groups, they often tend to have staff retention. So that means that basically staff want to work there. They tend to stay because they feel comfortable in where they're at and they're happy to be in that workplace environment. And ultimately, as I said before, if you can be your true authentic self, it can help you build confidence, both personally and professionally. And that's, again, a big part of career paths and why it's important that, it's all well and good knowing where we want to work and what we want to do, but it's also really important that we find the right place that fits for us. It's not just about the company in itself, but it's what works for us as well. Now, if worst case scenario, you should experience any forms of kind of prejudice or discrimination, whether that's around your, say, sexual orientation and or gender identity, I just want to reassure people and remind people that in the UK, we do have legislation and law and policy to protect us. And one big part of that policy and legislation is called the Equality Act 2010. And that is basically legislation that was introduced to protect people from experiencing discrimination in the UK, in the workplace, in particular, and it's based on 9 protected characteristics. So as we can see, it's based on age, sex, disability, ethnicity, gender reassignment, religion or belief, sexual orientation, marriage and civil partnership, and pregnancy and maternity. Just for the sake of this session today, I just want to focus on the 2 characteristics here when we think about gender reassignment and sexual orientation. So I will share 2 additional slides at the end of the session that people can look at and take away. But basically, if you experience any form of discrimination because of your sexuality and or your gender identity, I do want you to know that you have a right to challenge it, that you will be protected. There are various kind of, procedures you might need to go through, but there are policies in place to protect you. So just take that as a little bit of reassurance, in terms of workplace environments. And also with that, what I do want you to remember is that actually there are lots of inclusive employers. Oh, I can see on this screen for some reason the format has come out slightly different to the original version, but don't worry about that. As long as you can see some of these companies here, and again, these resources will be shared here. So I want to share with you that there are lots of LGBTQI plus inclusive employers. I've put Glassdoor on there as well. Like I say, you can check in and see what the reviews like for certain companies, but you can also, go on there and that they offer job posts as well. There's 2 at the top here. We've got Includability and also Jack at Work. I've put them there because not only are they great platforms for inclusivity and promoting inclusive employers, but I am also an ambassador and a professional consultant for Includability and Jack. So shameless plug, but they are good platforms to check out as well. So give them a whirl. 2 main ones as well, which I do also do some work with as well, My G Work. And My G Work as well are a great kind of inclusive employers platform. They also offer mentorship as well for people who are looking to, go down different routes in terms of their career or find different sectors that they might want to work in. And they've got a mentorship scheme as well. And they've also got a thing called Work Pride, which is every year. And actually Work Pride brings loads of different organisations and companies from all across the world together, and it shares, their voices, people from employment resource groups, their experiences. It highlights and showcases what all these great companies are doing to promote equality, equity and inclusion. So it's a really great opportunity to check in and reassure you that there are lots of companies out there that are really working hard to create safe, inclusive spaces. And also, just quickly, we've got LGBT jobs there as well. And again, they're another jobs board platform. They offer jobs just as My G Work does, just Includability and Jack do. And it's, again, a nice place to kind of have a look and see what employers are inclusive, what jobs are available. So, check them out, do a bit of research depending on what kind of sector you're interested in. These are specifically supported by LGBTQIA plus inclusive employers. And I think that really makes a difference if you're part of the community and you feel like you might need a bit more confidence when you're starting out in your career, or if you are just changing careers or just looking to find a new job and want a nice place to work in. So there's a quick top tip there for you. So we've looked at kind of, at the a bit back to front really, but I think it's important. We've looked at kind of, being your true authentic self, the importance of the workplace environment and why that's important, for you as an individual, whether you're part of the LGBTQI plus community or not. It's always important that, we want to work in nice, inclusive spaces and, environments where we can be our true selves, so then we can thrive and be the best version of ourselves. But depending on what part of your career journey you're at, you might kind of be new in the workplace environment, or you might be looking to finish college or start university, and then after university, then thinking about, what does my career trajectory look like? Wherever you're at, it doesn't matter, because if you are starting to look, or when you get to that stage where you're starting to kind of look at what kind of career you want to get into, what sector, what industry, making a career action plan is a really great way to help you stay focused, think about what your skills are, and really start to get an idea about, the best route and the best action and steps to take going forward. So just to kind of, open that up a little bit, if we want to kind of, achieve our pathway to success, when we're thinking about that kind of action and the steps we need to take, a career action plan is a good way to think, how can we use it as a guide that helps us to get to where we want to go, because it will help us to plan and kind of figure out what we want to do. It will ask you to look at your skills, what you're good at, what steps you may take, to move forward into that career, and how we can do that step by step by each journey. And you kind of create yourself a bit of a plan, really. And with that plan, it helps you stay focused. It helps you tackle any challenges that may come along the way. And there may well be challenges, and that's okay. It's okay if we have challenges. In fact, it's important that, we kind of tell ourselves we are going to expect some challenges along the way, because when we can, we know that's happening, it won't feel like such an issue. And we'll be able to kind of think, okay, let me think about this now. How can I work around this challenge in order to move to my next step? But either way, without having a plan, when you're thinking about your career, without a plan for that, you might just feel like you're saying, something like, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, but you're not really taking any steps to do it. And you kind of then end up just kind of drifting along. And before you know it, a year down the line, you haven't actually really done anything. So it's really a good way to help stay focused. And it helps keep you on track in order to kind of reach those career dreams and goals. So let's just take a quick look at what that looks like. And again, I will share these, so don't worry, they will be there for you to look at and kind of, take as a guide for your own action plan going forward. But when we think about those, career action plans and the steps to success, let's take, for example, if someone wants to be a graphic designer. And again, it could be anything. You can follow this process no matter what kind of job you're interested in. But let's say graphic designer. What we want to think about is that career goal. So, what do you want to achieve in your career? So, for example, you want to become a graphic designer. We've got to think about the short-term goals and the long-term goals. So, thinking about maybe depending on what part of your journey with that you are at, the first year to 2 year, thinking about, okay, what steps can you take right now that are going to get you closer to that goal. So for example, it may be that you might need to complete an online design course. It may mean that you need to build a portfolio of designs. You might want to apply for internships or an apprenticeship, or even, a part-time job, part-time design jobs, or even some voluntary work, on someone else's projects to help, get a bit more of experience to build up that portfolio. So once you've kind of, you've started taking the steps and actions with that, you've got a bit of a start there, you've got something you can work with. And then you want to start thinking, okay, so I've started, now I need to think long-term, like start pushing out to the next part of that journey. So long-term goals. Okay, so I've got a bit of experience, I've built up my portfolio. Now I've got to think, okay, in the next 3 to 5 years, for example, where do I want to move into next? How do I want to get to the end part of this? So we want to think, what do I do next to achieve the next few goals? So you've got more experience now, you've done a course, you've built up a portfolio. So it may now be that you might want to start going to, apply for full-time jobs as a graphic designer. And with that, you can then grow your design skills and your knowledge. And it may be that you are able to work for a design agency or a major brand. So once you've got, based on your short-term goals, once you've got that bit of experience, you can then start to think, well, now I can think a bit bigger. I can actually start applying for jobs because look at my portfolio. This is what I've got to kind of show people what I've done. And with that, then you start also thinking about your skills and your strengths, in order to remind yourself and give yourself that bit more confidence. So thinking about the skills and strengths you hold, what skills or strengths do you already have that will help you? So you've got creativity, you've got knowledge of design software. So you probably would have trained in something like Adobe Photoshop, for example. And also you've got attention to detail. So you've got these skills and these strengths because you've got all this experience you've built up when you're starting these first steps to action towards your goal. And then those action steps also look like where you start to list them as well. So you start to think you need to be a bit more specific. So you start to list those specific actions that you'll need to achieve each goal. So for example, you will need to research and sign up for more online courses. Maybe you might need to network with other designers, checking out other people's work, get to know people, get your face seen, get your work seen. Networking in this day and age is a really important way, whether that's, social events online, the people we meet, and typically that can be done on LinkedIn or Instagram. You might want to attend kind of workshops and webinars where you're kind of, again, you're linking in with other people, you're getting your face and your work out there, so you're getting more and more known. And these are kind of some of those steps that you can take. So when I think about how I can kind of set a goal and action it, for me, if I've done something like this where I've started to kind of list, what my career path looks like and how I can start using that, I prefer to use SMART goals. So for me, I think it helps me, and again, everyone's different, so whatever works best for you, take this as tips and tools. But for me, it helps me to kind of have a bit more of a clear focus. So if I think about a career action plan for goals that I want to set using those SMART goals, let's say, for example, I wanted to become a social media manager. So, for example, what I would do is when we break down what SMART work stands for, the acronym is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So for me, if I wanted to be a social media manager, or if you wanted to be a social media manager, we have to be specific. So I have to think, okay, I have to be specific. So I want to be a social media manager, but I want to, who do I want to do it for? What type of business, what organizations, what brands? So I have to be specific in that goal. So I would say I want to manage social media accounts for brands or businesses. And then it has to be measurable. So that measurable is, what can I do to start, knowing that I'm actioning it and I'm actually getting close to this. So in order to, build up a portfolio again, for example, I will kind of, set a task for myself where I'll say I'll grow my personal Instagram account by 10,000 followers by posting consistently and then also engaging with people online and with my followers as well. So by doing that, I'm starting to build up my portfolio. People are starting to see my work. People are starting to get to know who I am. I'm starting to move closer to, you know, growing my account, growing my viewers, growing my social media accounts as well, so that people can start to get a better idea about what I do and who I am. And then achievable. So again, how am I going to do that? So I'm going to take maybe an online course. So again, depending on, you know, what experience and skills you have, you may have studied something like this in college or university. You may even have a degree in it, but you may be someone who's at the very beginning of the action planning, and you may not have any skills, but you may know, I want to do this. So, you know, when you're thinking about, you know, how achievable is it, it's also about thinking, what do I need to do? Do I need to take a course? Do I need to, you know, go to university or go back to college to study this kind of stuff? What exactly is it that I need to do in order to, you know, move forward? So again, whilst we're thinking about, you know, achievable goals, it maybe in this case that the person does do an online course or, you know, around social media and marketing. They may want to start practicing content creation again to start building up their portfolio. And again, once you start again taking those steps towards what is it you're actually going to do to start actioning it, giving yourself a timeline to do it. So for example, you might have wrote down those ideas about what you want to do, and then the final thing is giving yourself that timeline on, I will land my first social media job within the next 6 months after completing my social media course and growing my portfolio. So again, when you kind of use the SMART goals format, for me, it's really easy to kind of work out the plan of action, and it helps me to kind of stay on track with what I need to do. So this is quite a popular kind of action plan and format that people use. It may work for you. It may be something that's different that you might need or choose that works better. It's really about figuring out what is good for you and how it works best. We did talk a bit about, you know, networking as well, and the importance of virtual networking, social media, and kind of, you know, these days, typically, if you go on, say, LinkedIn, for example, you know, people have connections and they have followers based on, you know, what's relevant to maybe their own career, what their interests are. And these are just a couple of examples of how you can also maybe, you know, that person who wants to be a social media manager, how can they also think to connect with other social media managers or other people that they look up to and like their style of work, to try and again get a bit of a foot in or make new connections and get a bit more kind of coaching or even mentoring or advice about what those people did in order to get to where they are now. So, you know, another way you can do that is by connecting with people. And, you know, let's say if it was a social media manager, for example, if it was more thinking about how we would connect, you might connect via Instagram or TikTok. And this is just a little bit of an example of what you might want to say to them, which I've got on the screen here. So, for example, hey, my name is Saskia, and I love the work that you're doing at TikTok, for example. I don't know, wherever you might want to be. I love the work you're doing at TikTok. I'm really interested in learning more about social media. And, you know, I'd love to have a quick virtual coffee or a quick chat with you if you've got time. You know, most people, you know, they're quite flattered actually when you say how much you like their work, and they want to hear about what you did, what they did rather, to get where they're at now. So, you know, some people will be quite open to allowing you that time, even if it might not be a virtual face-to-face, it might not be a physical face-to-face, but at the very least, typically they may give you at least a bit of a response. In terms of, you know, a response and a text chat. So try your luck is what I would say. I know when I've connected with people this way, for me, in many cases, it has been really good. It has worked. So, you know, if you want to kind of get a bit more of a insight about other people and what they're doing, give them a bit of flattery and ask if you can meet. And, you know, more often than not, it does work. Think about, though, how you word it, what you say, depending on the type of work and type of kind of roles you're applying for as well. So if it was something that maybe was a bit more of a corporate setting, you might send them an email, excuse me, or you might maybe connect with them via LinkedIn. It may be that you want to connect with the CEO or the hiring manager. And again, thinking about what that looks like, how you kind of word your message and the tone that you want to set for those people that you're kind of trying to connect with. And as I say, what works best for you, and try to connect with these people. And maybe you might need to rephrase your words, but again, I'll share these slides when you can have a look at them in your own time and see what you think about them, and just use them as guides, really. Quick things. I'm not going to go into kind of CVs now, because I do believe that you will be having a CV writing workshop coming up with Blossom as well. So check that out. But just a couple of quick tips on how to kind of improve your job search and showcase your strengths as well. So things to think about, how you're going to tailor your CV, customizing it for each job that you're applying for, highlighting the skills and experience that match your role. As well. And if you're new to that career, you don't have much experience, there's lots of great CV platforms out there that, for example, what's one called Purple CV, Perfect CV, My Perfect CV. So there's lots of great CV platforms out there that can give you kind of templates, a bit like this one you see here, depending on the type of industry you're looking for. Depending on your career history, if you've just left university or you're kind of new to work. So it's a good guide. But ultimately, check out someone, maybe even at Blossom, any other kind of career support programs they may have where there's CV writing opportunities that you can connect to as well, including the CV writing session that is going to be happening at Blossom soon as well. Thinking about your showcasing your strengths as well. During your interview, focus on specific examples of your skills and achievements and how they can add value to the company, using what we call the STAR technique. Now, I'm not going to give away too much for that, because I am actually also, following on from this session, I am running an additional session on Saturday, which is all about interview technique as well. So please do join if you've got any interviews coming up or you want a bit more support around that, in terms of, how you can be more comfortable and confident and using the STAR technique and what that looks like. So that's something to consider as well. Or you can just Google it and watch some videos and see what it looks like as well to get an idea. But the STAR technique typically helps you stay in control of your answers, remembering kind of as a guide, how to answer them in a specific way so that they have a start, a finish and an outcome, so that the employer knows exactly what happened in that situation. So it's a really good way to answer questions as well. Being authentic as well, stay true to your values and passions when you're applying for jobs, because it helps you to, connect with employers and the people you're working with when you can, be your true authentic self and you're aligned with your own beliefs as well. And again, depending on what type of work you might want to go into, it may need or be that you want to build an online presence, or just online connections, again, just to see what other people are doing. So maybe you might want to kind of, aspire to be a bit more like them, or get some tips and advice on what they're doing in order for you to improve on your skills. As you're kind of working through and navigating through the particular career path you choose to take. And also have a bit of a pitch practice, prepare a short kind of confidence pitch, or what they call the elevator pitch. If you was in the room with that person that you really need to talk to, the CEO of the company that you're desperate to work for, or, you get into the lift with them and you've got that opportunity to have 1 minute in that lift and say, showcase yourself in terms about who you are, what your strengths are, why you love the company, what you think you'd bring to the company, what does that actually look like? Something like that, again, gives you a bit more confidence to know who you are when you're discussing that with anybody. And I think the more we talk about our passions and why they're important to us, and also understanding the skills we have, the more comfortable and confident we are in ourselves. And I think that helps build empowerment in ourselves as well, because it certainly helps build confidence as well. So again, some quick tips and tools for you to take. So you may have done your career action plan, you may have done the course, you've got it all figured out, you know where you want to go and what you want to do, and that's great. But the reality is sometimes there may be some challenges, big, small, that may come out of nowhere, that you may know may be coming from somewhere and you're not quite sure. But I think it's important to know that if you kind of set yourself a task, say you've done your SMART goals, you've got your action plan in place, you know where you want to head, prepare yourself that, there are going to be challenges, and that's just a fact. And I think that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, but big or small, there's always going to be some kind of challenge. And that could be as simple as, you wanted to do a particular course in order to become the social media manager, but the course has been cancelled and you've got to now think about doing the course elsewhere, or the course is now going to start 2 or 3 months later or 6 months later. It could be things like that. It could be anything. If we mentally prepare ourselves that there may be challenges, but that's okay, it helps us to get through them, get over them, get around them a lot easier, because we kind of take the pressure off, we account for the fact that this can happen. So again, thinking about bouncing back from those setbacks, don't be disheartened, even if it is a bigger issue. There is always a way out of it. It may be that you may have to just stop for a minute to take some time back and refocus yourself. You may be thinking, okay, I had this all planned out and now this has happened, and it means I can't move forward. And I understand and appreciate how frustrating stuff like that can be. But it doesn't mean it's the end, and it doesn't mean you can't move forward. There's always another way. So we have to remember that. So don't be disheartened. And it is possible to move forward and to overcome those setbacks. So thinking about that, stay positive. Focus on, what can I learn from these setbacks? Is there anything I can remember or take from this to think, right, next time I'm going to do it slightly differently? Think about the positives. What can I take from these setbacks and challenges, and how can I use it to move forward? Maybe it may be that your goal's a bit too big at this point. Maybe you might need to reevaluate the goal, and maybe make those bite-sized chunks, make it a little bit smaller, so it's easier to kind of work through. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get to your end goal. It just means that sometimes we just got to stop and chop it up a little bit, and slowly, bit by bit, we start to overcome and move forward. And actually, personally for me, sometimes if the goal feels a bit too big, it's a bit too overwhelming. So I prefer to kind of do the bite-sized chunks, because it helps me to kind of know that, I'm getting there. It's a marathon, not a race, as they say. So think about that. Think about do you need to kind of break down those goals, and embrace those changes. As I said, be open to new opportunities, because typically when there's a barrier or a hurdle in your way, there's often a learning from that. And what can we learn from those challenges? How can we kind of think, right, if this happened again in future, now I'm more equipped because I'm understanding, how I can get through it, what I need to do, whether they're personal challenges, whether they're physical challenges, whether they're career challenges, whatever that challenge may be, take what we can from it and learn from that. And with that means practicing that self-care. So don't get disheartened and frustrated. There is always going to be a way around it. Sometimes we might need to talk to others about that, other people who've been in your situation, other people who may have a bit more experience, but taking that self-care to understand that, okay, I'm going to stop, I'm going to reset, and I'm going to think about what I need to do to move forward to the next stage, and talk to people about that. Because actually often when we do talk to people, you'll be surprised how many, whether it's friends, family, peers, work colleagues, how often, it's not just you. People have experienced very similar things, and good to get an idea of how they've overcome those challenges as well. But again, taking some self-care, some time out, and thinking about, what's going to work for you in order to move to the next stage, because these kind of strategies can really help you get through. And with that, it may be that there's career setbacks, but also the reality is we're not robots, we are all human, and sometimes we forget to think about ourselves. And when challenges impact us, whether they're kind of, career challenges, life challenges, day-to-day challenges maybe because of our sexual orientation and or gender identity, as a community, the reality is, of course, there's lots of challenges right now for our community. And it can impact us directly. It can impact us personally. I'm very open and out about my sexual orientation, and I do a lot of public speaking within the LGBTQI+ community and to allies. What's going on in the world right now, it is worrying. It is making me feel anxious at times. And I have to remember, though, it doesn't mean that everybody is, anti-LGBTQIA+. There are lots of allies out there. There's lots of great people out there still, doing lots of inclusive work to create those safe spaces and those inclusive spaces. So I need to think for myself at times, okay, am I thinking about my self-care just as you need to think about your self-care? I need to check in with myself. Am I getting stressed out? Am I reading social media way too much? Am I following too many stories that are being pumped through my social media, Instagram or TikTok, that are just negative? And do I need to take a step back from that? So when you do that, when we start to kind of check in with ourselves, we have to think, okay, what do I need to do? Why am I feeling like this? I don't feel my usual self. I don't feel happy. I'm feeling stressed. Let me stop. Let me breathe. Let me just take a moment. When we do that, it allows us to be a bit more calmer. Okay. So when did you check in with yourself last? Think to yourself, is it something you do regular? A lot of us are not the best at self-care, but it's something really we should practice more often in order to get more stronger, to feel more confident and build more resilience ultimately. But to know ourselves, to know that when we're not feeling ourselves, when we're a bit off key for whatever reason, actually, let me stop, let me refocus and get myself back on track. So if we check in with ourselves, we need to think about how's our confidence levels feeling? Is it something that I need to work on to improve our confidence? What in fact is that? Confidence is kind of that, understanding our own worth, and our abilities. And it's having that kind of, that self-assurance, that belief in ourselves, that positiveness and being able to be assertive when we need to. And also that leads into our self-esteem as well. It's about how you think and feel about yourself. Having healthier self-esteem makes it easier, to support ourselves when we're feeling down. It gives us better self-respect, help us understand about more self-regard, and also gives us pride in ourselves as well. And understanding that, when we've got good self-esteem, that helps build on the confidence levels there as well. And when we've got those two combined together, we have to think about empowering ourselves with that. Because when we've got that empowerment, it's that feeling like, you have the power and the control over your own life. And the processes of becoming stronger and more confident, especially, in controlling our life and kind of having that kind of claiming of ourselves and claiming our own rights as well. And I do understand right now, it probably doesn't feel like that if you're part of the LGBTQI+ community. It probably feels a bit like, our rights are not protected. It feels like no one cares, no one supports us. And, the reality is there's lots of worrying times and things that have happened. But let me reassure you here to say as well that, our community is probably one of the many other communities, particularly marginalised, underrepresented communities, a very strong community. And this isn't the first time that we've been through hard times. Yeah. Historically, we've overcome so many setbacks and so many challenges. And if you think about back in the 60s, back in 1969, when the first Stonewall riots or the Stonewall uprising, as some may call it, happened, public opinion around our community was very low. And in fact, we didn't have much support at all. We didn't have social media. We didn't have laws. We didn't have policies. We didn't have so many protections and support that actually we do have today, particularly in this country as well. So I just want to reassure you that even though it may feel worrying and stressful, and I'm not going to play it down and say people don't have a right to think like that, because of course we do need to be mindful. But I want to reassure you that there's so many great people out there that are there to support us, to support each other in our community, as allies outside of our communities. So, we can only control what we can control in our day-to-day lives. We can't always control the bigger things. So think about what you can control in your own life and kind of focus on that right now. And that self-care plays a big part in that, whether that's healthier eating, exercising, being around positive people in your friends, staying away from social media, having the social media break. I do recommend that for everyone at any point. Take time out and just think about what's good for you. What do you need to make you feel better? Connecting with other friends and family or other services from LGBTQI+ communities, charities, support groups, youth groups. What does that look like? What's your network of support look like to help you feel more connected and to remind you that there are so many people out there that are ready to support you. And as I say, I would advise, you don't have to take it, but do take some breaks from social media, because I tell you, it can really get you down, and it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Remember, only focus on the things we can control right now, because we can't always control the big things. It doesn't mean the big things won't change, but we've got to build up to that. So if you feel that you might need a little bit more support, of course you have Blossom. Blossom are a great support service. You know, they're a charity there to help people from the LGBTQI plus community and allies as well. So if you're part of the Blossom teams, or not the team, but, you know, part of the Blossom network, then connect with people from the team if you feel like you need to chat. But I've just listed a few more people and services, should I say, that are available here as well. And again, I'll be sharing this so you can connect with them as well. We've also got here the LGBT plus switchboard helpline. Again, that's a free service. You can contact them. They're all free services, actually, a free service to contact. And you can chat to them about what's on your mind. You can ask them if there's any local queer groups in your area. They're basically there to signpost you to support services that you may need, and also there to chat should you need that on the call as well. Also thinking about, you know, other youth services. So we've got the Proud Trust, we've got Mosaic LGBT. You know, again, it may not be that your area has a local youth group. You may have to travel, or you may want to find something online, depending on what part of the country you're in. But having a bit more of an awareness about and knowledge about, you know, knowing that there are so many other great support services around there, it makes us feel less alone. And when we feel quite stressed, particularly about, you know, politics and news and what's current in the, you know, in current world news, what's happening, you know, connecting with the people that are like-minded and supporting us and ultimately have got our back is a really great way to help us feel much more reassured, much more confident and empowered. It may well be that you may need a bit more support. So I always think about, you know, self-care and our mental health as well. You know, don't feel any shame in thinking that I need a bit more support around mental health. We all have mental health. You know, it's on a spectrum. Good mental health, you know, sometimes it's not as you know, it's not as good. It might be feeling like we've got negative mental health, but depending on where we are, that's, you know, it's okay to talk about it. If you need to talk about it, you can contact Samaritans. If you don't have a therapist, they're a great quick call 24/7 as well, at calling them at any time. I've even accessed Samaritans over the years, and I think they've been great for me as and when I've needed it. So don't feel no shame in ever having to, you know, get a bit of self-care, talk to someone to help you feel better. In fact, that's the best thing that you can do. So I always encourage that. There is also Mind as well, or you may be in a position where you can pay for a therapist yourself, but, you know, financially that's not always the case for everyone. So access again the support services that are going to work best for you. In terms of kind of bullying, hate crime, and any additional things around that, I don't like to kind of bring them up. We never want them to be happening, but the reality is, sometimes for people within our community that can be the case. So we've got Ditch the Label, which are an anti-bullying support service and charity as well. We've also got Zeteria, very quickly there. Zeteria are really important. So when we think about Zeteria, that's an app that was set up with Stonewall, Vodafone, and also with Gallup. Basically what you can do, it's a free app, you can go download it. If you experience any forms of hate crime, or what you think may be hate crime around, say, homophobia, biphobia or transphobia, you can go on, you can anonymously write your report. It gets filtered through, and then they will contact you if you want to leave. It gives you an option. If you want to leave your details, it gives you an option. You can contact them, and then they'll connect with you, and they'll let you know if it is a hate crime, if you wanted to report it to the police. But also they offer additional support, you know, for victims of hate crimes as well. And they also allow or offer you support services as well around your local area, or again, what works for you. Ultimately, it's a safe space for people to be able to connect with if they've experienced stuff like that. I've put the websites there as well, so we will share them. And I'm just conscious of time here as well. I just want to say that, you know, lots of celebrities out there that are out and proud and open and out and doing their thing, you know, to kind of promote LGBTQIA plus rights and inclusion. You know, a quick quote here from Laverne Cox. I believe if we have something that we love to do, that can save our lives and that can get us through. So again, I would encourage people, you know, to remember that do what is best for you, get the support you need. remember being your true authentic self is so important. And, you know, we do have lots of positive celebrities out there that are out there, you know, fighting for our rights as well. But connect with the people that empower you to feel confident in who you are. And once we've got that strength and resilience, that's where we can really start to, you know, build on our own next steps and who we want to be and how we want to be in the world, whether that's through our career, whether that's through ourselves individually, through activism, and what that looks like. And whilst there are so many great positive celebrities that are out there being out and open, out and proud, for me, I would just like to say that be the star of your own show. I don't know why this screen hasn't shown the way it should, but that's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to leave that with you because I want you to know that, you know, your sexuality and your gender identity, they don't define you, but the incredible person that you are inside and out does. And that's the person that the world deserves to see. So go and be amazing from me. And I think it's really important that when we remember that, you know, being our true authentic self, you know, is so key to how we show up in the world. But we do need allies, and we can't always do it alone. So reach out to the people that energize you, that make you feel good about yourself, and kind of stay away from those ones who are a bit more negative. I do appreciate sometimes it's not always easy to do that, particularly if it's friends and family. You might not be out yet, you may not be supported. So coming out is not always an easy thing, and it's not always a safe thing. But just remember, there are people out there who see you, who respect you, who know that you are you, and that's the most important thing. And connect with those people in a safe space where you can. And ultimately, if you can only connect with one group, go through Blossom, because they're your starting point in able to do that. So, Steph, I'm going to pause there because just to see if there's any questions coming through. Otherwise, I will be talking for England.
We do have some questions. I'm going to read them for you. We've got 3 questions actually coming through. Where am I? Okay, I'm here. Question number 1, how can I stay motivated when I face so many rejections? Is there a way to reduce rejections?
Okay, is that rejections in terms from a workplace?
I would guess so. I don't know.
I assume. I think, you know what we've got to remember is if we take it from a workplace perspective and assuming that it's the case of you are applying for lots of different jobs, putting your CV out there, blasting it out there, and it is frustrating. Maybe it's time to reconsider the types of platforms you're using. So, for example, the bigger platforms, the giant platforms, more like, you know, Monster, Indeed, you know, CV Library, those kind of ones. If you think about the amount of thousands of people that are typically, you know, applying for that one job, it's much harder to kind of get, you know, to get your job because you've got so much competition. So it isn't always that it's you personally, it's often the amount of people that are applying for that job. Now, that's not to say don't continue to use those platforms, because of course I would say use as many different platforms as you can. You know, it's a numbers game. The more we put our CV out and the more jobs we apply for, the more likely we are to get interviews, the more likely we are to get that, you know, closer to those dream jobs and those reaching those goals. It may be that you might need to revisit your CV. It may be that you might need to review how you're applying with the applications. What's your wording look like? Also, is it ATS compatible? You know, AI scans so many CVs, so many job applications. It's looking for keywords. So are you using keywords that are in line with that job application, what it's looking for? Because you might think to yourself, I've got the skills to do this job, but AI isn't when it's scanning for these, you know, keywords, it doesn't know that. So think about maybe you need to tweak, you know, the wording a bit to make it a bit more compatible, and ultimately just keep going. It may also be that a job that's posted very quickly, a job that's posted on, say, Indeed, that particular company may have also posted the job on their own website. So check out their website, maybe apply directly through that way. It might be a quicker route as well, and less people are applying that way. So there's just a couple of things to think about there as well. Hope that answered the question. Don't give up the faith.
Question number 2. I'm self-employed and I'd like to start my own little queer-friendly bar. Do you think I can apply these steps, or is there something additional I need to think about?
Yeah, no, great question. And I really hope that you do get the queer friendly bar open. Do let us know. when it happens. We're going to say when, not if. I think, look, whatever you want to do, we need to have some kind of plan of action, don't we? So we need to have something in place to put these steps, just to help get it down and get us focused. And again, depending on the scale of the goal of what you're looking for. I mean, self-employed, applying for a bar license, having a venue, they're obviously big parts to that puzzle that you're going to need to look into if you haven't already. So having it on paper or written down or whatever that looks like to you, having it in a bit more of an order, even if it's step by step. For example, okay, I'm self-employed. Do I need to I need to apply for a license? What steps do I need to take for that? Where's the venue? I need to find a venue. What steps do I need to take for that? Breaking it down into those bite-sized chunks, as I mentioned, again, can really help, to move closer. So yes, I would say it's always, whatever the kind of career goal is, whatever that looks like, those kind of steps help us stay focused and on track.
Yeah, I was looking at the comments. Someone said, start with a pop-up and then grow.
Oh, fabulous. Exactly. Start with the pop-ups. And again, if it's kind of a queer bar, thinking about who can I connect with and who's already doing that, the pop-ups. Contact local prides. Can I do it at Pride? Can I get a space at one of the pitches on the Pride events? Because again, they're always open, and all of that helps you boot up your social media content, and it helps, so you can start to really think and see how it can grow, So good luck with that, and let us know when it opens.
Please do. Question number 3. I think it's twofold, this one. Like many queer people, I wear different career hats. LOL. I teach yoga. I'm a singer. I do some PA. I'm assuming PA is personal assistance. How do I tailor my job searches and CV when I don't fit a single industry? Also, how do I handle people who see my career as quote unquote unfocused rather than versatile?
Oh, well, I can really relate to what you're saying there, because I've put pictures there of me doing different things, because I do lots of different things. So I am a Pride host, I am a singer, I am an interviewer, I am a mentor and coach, and I do lots of different things. And my CV, realistically, if it should be like this. But the reality is, for different types of industry or different types of roles I'm going for, you have to tailor it to what you're looking for. And we can use things like our transferable skills in that as well. Firstly, don't forget the people, the naysayers. It doesn't matter what they're doing. You're being creative, and if you're doing what you love and it's working for you, go and do it. That's the most important thing. Some people 9 to 5 works, for others it doesn't. So whatever works for you, so forget them, do what works for you. If it's helping you move forward in your career, if it's making you happy, then you do what you need to do to do that. So I would basically say, like all of this, tailor the CV to specific roles you're applying for, or tailor the job application again to the particular roles you're applying for. And think about maybe, probably a bit like myself. Obviously, there'll be different income streams for some or all of those things you're doing. Maybe think about what's most stable at the moment, what's going to bring me income in, so I can have that there, and then maybe focus on the other passions that I want to grow and build as well. Because typically that's the kind of thing I tend to do. But ultimately, what feels good? We've all got to pay our bills, unfortunately, but we have. But what makes us, what makes you tick? What really, lights that fire for you? And if you're in a position, even if you're doing what I call a stepping stone job, where you've got maybe a bit of money coming in just to cover your bills whilst you're really focusing on your, your passion projects, so you can build them to be those dream careers, do it that way. So there's always lots of different options to think about. But ultimately, don't let people tell you that you're not doing a proper job. If it's working for you, it makes you happy, then you do it. In fact, more and more people are going self-employed. More and more people are being more creative and using their skills to work for themselves. That's a massive shift in where, the employment sector and the job market is moving to those kind of phases where people are working for themselves. So you do you, is what I say.
Thank you. There's no more questions, but I would like to read some of the comments left on Instagram. To keep motivated, ask for feedback, don't take it personally, keep a positive journal. And I think this is an advice for the person who asked the last questions. Have a different CV for different purposes: functional CV, target CV, chronological CV. Focus on what gives you joy. Use your diary to get organized. Use color coding if that helps. So I found that to be a little bit helpful. So I think I love it when people comment, comment and feedback to each other as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. It reminds us that we are basically allies in this together. You're all allies, even in this group, supporting each other, you know. So, again, that's how we make the difference.
Indeed. Well, wow, this was really nice. Thank you, Saski, for sharing. Well, first of all, sharing some of your personal experiences, and of course, for sharing all of this information that you did with us today. You know, especially mentioning the Equality Acts and reminding us that we can uh, do something about it if we ever face any discrimination. In addition to acknowledging the challenges that we meet and addressing that with compassion and practicality. I love that. Thank you to the audience, your comments, your questions, and all of it. Please reach out to us with any remaining thoughts you may have. This is incredibly important to us. This is how we cater our webinars and workshops to you, to what you need and what you want. Follow us on our socials. I know you already do. There's a lot of you on Instagram right now. Thank you for that. Sign up to the mailing list if we ever email you about that. And lastly, if you're interested in the mentorship scheme for queer youth, whether as a mentor or mentee, do reach out for more information. You can find this information on our website, like where to reach out to us and all that. For now, I'm going to leave you. Have a great evening and take care, and see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Thank you.